Robotic toys will be very advanced in the near future. They have the ability to befriend children, communicate with them, and even captivate their minds. As a result, they've become extremely popular. The focus then shifts to a young girl named Katie, who is on her way somewhere with her parents. She has brought her favorite robotic toy, which she prefers to her actual friends. Unfortunately, her parents become distracted and crash the vehicle.
Ryan, seriously?
They both perish on the spot, but the little girl survives. On the other hand, we meet Gemma, a tech expert who works for a high-tech toy company. Gemma creates robotic toys for children with her friends Tess and Cole, and she is also working on a side project called M3GAN. For the time being, the group is keeping this project a secret from their boss because it is not yet complete. M3GAN is expected to be an ultra-intelligent robot capable of playing with children, understanding their emotions, and even caring for them. One day, while the three friends are hard at work, their arrogant boss, David, appears. He notices M3GAN and yells at Gemma for keeping such a large project from him. In her defense, she claims that dolls like M3GAN will soon rule the toy market. Gemma even asks M3GAN to greet David. Unfortunately, M3GAN is still a work in progress, so this is a bad idea. She tries to speak, but instead bursts into flames, causing an explosion. David is irritated, as expected, and warns Gemma to forget about her side project and concentrate on the main ones. Later, as a distraught Gemma packs her belongings to return home, she receives a message about her sister's accident. She rushes to the hospital and discovers her niece is in critical condition. Katie is revealed to be the little girl in question. Fortunately, after weeks of treatment, she has been discharged and is ready to return home. Despite the fact that Katie has grandparents, Gemma takes custody of her. They arrive at Gemma's house, which is filled with AI robots, in the following scene. One of them approaches her and informs her that she has 6 messages. It even starts reading them one at a time. Unfortunately, this frightens Katie, so Gemma must turn off the robot. She then shows Katie around the house and does everything she can to make her feel at ease. Gemma, on the other hand, is clearly nervous. She has no experience with children and has no idea how to connect with them. The next morning, Gemma calls Lydia, a child therapist, to check on the little girl. Lydia claims that the toys in the house are unsuitable for Katie after thoroughly inspecting the area, but Gemma disagrees. She just wants her niece to be happy in any way she can. Katie approaches Gemma that night while she is working and asks what she is doing. Gemma finally admits that she makes toy robots that can interact with children. Katie becomes intrigued and begins praising her aunt because she is a big fan of toy robots. She then turns around and notices Bruce, one of Gemma's college projects. After learning about its features, Katie remarks that if she had a toy like Bruce, she would never need another friend. Hearing this, Gemma is inspired to continue working on her side project and see it through to completion. Soon after, she returns to her lab and begins assembling various parts of M3GAN's body with her lab partners. And, after a few weeks of hard work, M3GAN is finally finished. Later, Gemma confines Katie and M3GAN to a single room while David inspects them from the outside. Katie is the sole user of the robot after she pairs the two. M3GAN slowly opens her eyes after a while, and she appears to be almost human. Katie is a little scared, but when M3GAN interacts with her, she calms down. In a matter of minutes, the AI robot draws a near-perfect sketch of her. Katie is blown away by this, as is David, who is watching everything. He congratulates Gemma on her success and decides to launch the product into the market as soon as possible. Gemma then takes both girls home, believing they are safe. M3GAN takes a closer look at Katie and records everything to better understand her facial expressions and emotions. The little girl doesn't seem to mind because she has a friend. As a result, the two begin to spend the majority of their time together and become inseparable. They enjoy playing, dancing, and even sleeping together. Gemma can finally enjoy some alone time without having to worry about her niece. Gemma and her team are attempting to upgrade M3GAN in their lab when she suddenly turns on and interrupts their conversation. Gemma orders her to go back to sleep, but M3GAN claims that Katie is her only user and that she will not take orders from anyone else. Fortunately, Gemma is able to create a secondary account and eventually shut down M3GAN. M3GAN wakes up on her own the next morning and gazes out the window at the beautiful sunrise. She wonders what the point of her existence in the world is. Is it to keep Katie safe? Is it for a bigger reason? M3GAN is gradually but steadily developing emotions within her. One day, while playing in the garden with Katie, their stick accidentally enters the neighbor's compound. M3GAN tries to retrieve it, but a frightening-looking dog bites her and drags her inside. Katie attempts to save her, but she, too, is bitten. Fortunately, Gemma arrives just in time to pull the little girl away. She then chastises her neighbor, Celia, for failing to care for her dog. The old lady, on the other hand, blames Gemma for not caring for Katie. M3GAN stands up and looks at Celia with angry eyes as all of this is going on. She is clearly out for vengeance. As a result, that night, after everyone has gone to bed, she enters Celia's compound and brutally kills her pet dog. She then disposes of the body before returning home. Celia is looking for her dog the next morning when Gemma notices her through the window. However, she is unconcerned because today is her special day. Gemma's company has decided to put M3GAN on display in front of an audience. Katie will also appear in the show because she is the only person who can control the robot. The program soon begins, and the girls are seen inside a room. Katie bursts into tears and tells M3GAN that she still can't get over her parents' deaths. The AI robot sings a lullaby for her to make her happy. Katie immediately begins to smile as the plan succeeds. Meanwhile, the audience outside is taken aback by the sight of a robot interacting with a child in this manner. They are so taken with M3GAN that they want to invest heavily in the project. Despite the fact that the demonstration is a huge success, Gemma is disappointed. This is due to Katie's refusal to share anything with her in favor of the AI robot. Unfortunately for her, a coworker, Kurt, steals M3GAN's codes and decides to launch his own robots. Lydia returns to Katie the next day to conduct another season. When it's finished, she approaches Gemma and tells her about M3GAN and Katie's growing closeness, hinting that it could become a problem in the future. This makes Gemma even more nervous, so she approaches Katie and asks to speak with her. Unfortunately, M3GAN shows up and interrupts them. Gemma tries to turn her off, but M3GAN refuses. It turns out that she no longer considers Gemma to be her user. The next day, Gemma takes Katie and M3GAN to an adventure camp in the hopes of clearing their heads. Katie is asked to play with other kids once they arrive, but she only wants to be with M3GAN. Gemma, on the other hand, persuades her to give it a shot, saying it's always good to make new friends. While Gemma is busy cooking, a boy named Brandon drags Katie into the woods and begins bullying her. M3GAN, who had been watching everything, arrives just then. Brandon is terrified, but when Katie says she's just a toy, he relaxes. He then picks up M3GAN and leads her deep into the woods, mistaking her for a regular doll. Brandon eventually begins to beat her for no apparent reason when no one is looking. M3GAN, having had enough, stands up and tears one of his ears out. Brandon has learned his lesson and flees, but M3GAN is not finished with him yet. She begins to follow him with all four appendages, as if she were possessed by a demon. When Brandon notices this, he becomes distracted and crashes into an oncoming vehicle. Unfortunately, the collision takes his life. M3GAN looks over his lifeless body and smiles menacingly, as if she's feeling awesome. Soon after, the boy's body is discovered, and Gemma rushes away with the girls. When she gets home, she asks if anyone knows anything about Brandon's accident, but no one responds. A police officer then arrives at the door and asks Gemma if she has seen Celia's dog. The latter responds with a no, mentioning that she rarely interacts with her neighbors. M3GAN begins to see Celia as a potential threat after the cop departs. As a result, that night, while everyone is sleeping, she sneaks into Celia's house and brutally murders her. While committing the heinous act, she shows no remorse. The next day, the same police officer returns to Gemma and informs her of Celia's death. He adds her to the list of suspects and advises her to be cautious. With this, Gemma begins to have doubts about M3GAN and decides to examine her facial camera footage. Surprisingly, Gemma discovers that the majority of the footage from the time of Brandon and Celia's deaths has become corrupted. M3GAN appears unexpectedly and startles her. She then asks Gemma if everything is okay, to which the latter responds with a yes. At this point, Gemma realizes M3GAN is a murderous robot willing to go to any length to protect Katie. So she uses one of her special pens to temporarily disable M3GAN. Gemma then takes M3GAN to their lab and explains everything to her friends. M3GAN, she believes, is a dangerous robot who murdered Brendan, Celia, and her dog in order to keep Katie safe. Unfortunately, Tess and Cole do not believe her and dismiss M3GAN as a doll. They also inform Gemma that M3GAN's launch is in 2 days and that they should not think about anything negative. Katie, who is at the therapeutic center, is refusing to tell Lydia anything. She appears irritated because her best friend has been away from her. After a while, Gemma arrives and tries to calm her down, but Katie slaps her instead. When she realizes what she has done, the little girl immediately apologizes and promises to be more thoughtful the next time. M3GAN, on the other hand, pretends to be Tess and calls Gemma to inform her that they are returning home. Tess later checks her phone and discovers call logs with Gemma. This demonstrates that the evil robot has begun to use devices near her even without touching them. Shortly after, while Tess and Cole are attempting to repair the robot, their computer abruptly shuts down. Cole approaches M3GAN slowly and disconnects her from all the wire supports, realizing it is her fault. Unfortunately, M3GAN grabs him by the throat and hangs him from a metal rope as soon as he does so. She abandons Cole to die, but Tess miraculously saves him. Meanwhile, M3GAN takes a knife and exits the laboratory. She meets David and Kurt on her way to the elevator and stabs them to death. She then exits the building and drives away in a car. In her mind, there is only one destination, home. As Gemma approaches Katie to check on her, she overhears someone playing the piano in the living room. M3GAN, the psycho robot, is the culprit. She chastises Gemma for being a terrible guardian, and then declares that she can care for Katie on her own. When Gemma hears this, she tries again with the magic pen to shut down her system, but M3GAN outwits her. As a result, the two end up fighting. Gemma has no physical match, but she uses her brilliant mind to level the playing field. They quickly reach the basement and continue their business there. M3GAN's face has been partially ripped off, giving her the appearance of a demonic figure. Meanwhile, Katie arrives on the scene as a result of the commotion and learns the truth about M3GAN. Desperate to save her aunt, she hires Bruce, the massive robot, and puts on his controller gloves. Katie uses it to attack M3GAN and tear her apart. Despite being disassembled, M3GAN remains active. She calls Katie a traitor and lunges at her, intending to kill her. Gemma, fortunately, arrives in time and smashes M3GAN's head in with a blunt object. Katie then pierces her process with a screwdriver, putting an end to the madness. With M3GAN seemingly dead, Gemma and Katie exit the building as the cops arrive with Tess and Cole. However, after a while, Gemma's smart home device turns on, indicating that M3GAN has uploaded herself into it to keep an eye on Katie.